Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy Stumped back for another OPTC video, and in today's video, we're hopping into the Garp challenges with the new Super Suga Fest Yamato taking on Heavenly Demon 1, Eneru, and the Worst Generation. So first of all, we're hopping into Heavenly Demon 1. That was the team, those are the supports. Let's dive in. Now, in today's video, I am sort of just going to talk about Yamato as a character. I'm not really going to talk about the actual event, as like Heavenly Demon 1 has been around for so damn long. Like, there's so many different ways to beat this, and there's so many like faster teams and stuff that like I'm not really going to talk about the actual content. Same with like Enel as well. I'm actually just going to talk about the pros and cons that I do find with Yamato. Now, Yamato is a Super Suga Fest. She's very, very strong. In my opinion, she's the third best legend in the entire game. In terms of like value, I don't rate her that highly. Very similar to like Roger. Like, whilst Roger and Yamato, I do think they're like top 3 best units in the game, Roger being first and Yamato being third. I don't think they're like the most valuable units to have. Like Ace Sabo, Toki, Fire Tank Pirates, those kind of legends to me like are a little bit more valuable, as they sort of have more viability when it comes to like clearing a higher array of content. Now, don't get me wrong, like Yamato and Roger, they can clear just as much content, but when you are doing like speed stuff and you are trying to get around things for newer players, even characters like Moria and like the new Doffy with their super types and the super classing, being able to like wave clear, those types of characters just work really, really well for a higher amount of content when you look at stuff like Treasure Map, when you look at something like Garp challenges, when you look at something like arenas and stuff like that. But in saying that too, I do think Yamato, she's very, very good. She's an exclusive legend being a Super Sugo, and both her 6-star and her 6+ are very good as well. With her 6-star, she is an int-driven striker captain, and I do really like that she's striker. Striker's been getting a lot of love, like with like verse Whitebeard, and then obviously with the Yamato, with Kid, and it's still like probably like one of the lower classes, but it does have a lot of power, and if you put the team together right, like you can do a lot of cool things. The shenanigans that Yamato can like do, because she is just an int-based captain as well, works really, really well. And what I mean by her not being the most valuable unit is she's very easy to just hybrid Yamato with another character. It's very rare that you see Yamato as a sub, or you use Yamato as a sub. If you are using Yamato as a sub, it's basically for that 1.75 extra damage, getting the Wano orbs and that chain boost, and doing some chain boosting shenanigans. But if there is full immunity, the 1.75 times extra damage doesn't really go through. The Wano orbs is always going to be viable, and that chain boost is always nice, but if you are using a chain lock, it just becomes null and void at that particular point. In saying that though, she is a 5 times captain when you do have those Wano orbs. She is a 4.5 times captain otherwise. When you're below 50% HP, she increases the chain multiplier by, I think it's 0.25, which can be stacked. So once you drop below 50% HP, you can actually like increase your chain multiplier as a base for her captain ability, as well as getting 20% damage reduction, which is very, very important. That damage reduction is very, very nice to have, and when you are below 50%, it works really, really nicely. The big thing about Yamato as well, she can lock orbs very, very easily with her super typing, as well as using stuff like the Magello ship, with also having stuff with like the custard support, and being able to lock those Wano orbs just makes content so much easier, because you can hang on to Wano orbs for days. Her super typing will do the 0.25 chain multiplier buff, as well as lock orbs, which is really nice, because if you use her special, you can not only give yourself a full bottle Wano orbs, 1.75 times extra damage, and get the 1.3, I think it is, or maybe 1.2, addition to the chain multiplier. But then when you use her super typing, you can then lock those orbs and increase the chain even more. She does have a final tap. She's a final tap character as well, and her final tap basically at level 5 doubles the chain multiplier on that final shot. So if you're at 5 times chain, she turns it into a 10 times for her final shot, and she rotates her own orb into a Wano slot, which can be viable if you sort of are missing out on that as well. But like most of the time, you're gonna have a Wano slot, and as you guys are probably like watching as I've been rambling away, like we've basically just had like a Wano slot on someone this entire run, as you have so much power and you have such a good array of subs. You can use stuff like Moria because they're driven. You can use stuff like Verse Big Mom. I think Verse Big Mom pops up on every single one of these teams. She's such a good sub for Yamato. You can use stuff like Verse Whitebeard. You have the new Marco if you need utility. You can use stuff like Baccarat. You have a lot of very good rare recruits. The new Who's Who, very good int character as well. But in saying that as well, Yamato is also a striker and a driven captain, which is very, very nice. So she can be hybrided up very, very easily with characters like Kid, with characters like First Whitebeard, with other characters like First Akainu, Fire Tank Pirates, and you can make some pretty cool driven teams. You can also do some shenanigans with like Driven Powerhouse, with like Moria as a friend captain, as your captain. And Yamato just works exceptionally well. Driven gets a lot of support moving forward as well, like a lot. On Japan, they're up there as probably like one of the best classes in the game, probably equal first with Free Spirit in my eyes. And like they just have so many different options. And if you have an established account and you picked up Yamato, she's always going to pretty much find a way onto your driven team because she can just do so much stuff that no other unit can possibly do with her 1 orbs, with her extra damage, and with her what's it called? With her final tap and all her chain shenanigans. So that was Doffy 1. As you guys saw there, we just ripped through it. Let's move on to Mr. Enel or Eneru now. Alright, so on to Mr. Eneru. This is the team that we are using. It is a full Sugo team, but, like, honestly, you don't even really need that Sanji. Like, you can use any Sanji you like. So that's the team. Those are the supports. Let's dive in. With Yamato as well, another thing to note with Yamato is, with her Super Evolution, she completely changes into a Free Spirit and a Psy character, and you can pick up the skulls from the Rayleigh shop. I'd highly recommend picking up the 100 skulls for most players, unless you did get very lucky and you pulled 2 Yamatos. Congratulations, because like that is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of effort. But if you did pick up 2 Yamatos, you're hunky-dory. But for everyone else, just pick up the 100 skulls. Hopefully, we will see them back in the shop. I was talking to a few of the boys, and we have our fingers and toes crossed that they will sort of pop up in the Rayleigh shop every time Yamato is available on a banner. But we'll sort of just have to wait and see what that actually looks like when she does return. I do imagine she'll probably return on the New Year's banner. I can't confirm whether or not she will return on the New Year's banner, but in my eyes, I do think Bandai will slide her on there somewhere. So if you didn't pick up 2 this time, don't stress. There will be another opportunity, whether it is New Year's or not. There will be another opportunity to pick her up. But in PvP, she's an absolute weapon as well. She's one of the best int characters, and she actually gives the int team viability when it comes to attacking. She can do that half stat thing that Moria can, but she can actually apply it to literally the entire team, and then she just basically kills 2 enemies. She's very, very good. The reason that you kind of want to have 2 Yamatos, or you want to have, like... Well, the big reason you want to have 2 Yamatos, besides Kazuna, is really for PvP. So if you're not a big PvP player, don't stress, because... you don't really need 2 otherwise. A lot of people have been asking me, what should I do with my Yamato? Should I 6+ Yamato, or should I leave her as a 6-star? In my opinion, I think you should just do it as the content comes, or if you like using the unit. If you're a big fan of running Free Spirit characters and you really want to use 6+ Yamato when her 6+ comes out, then by all means, definitely do it. But don't just sort of go willy-nilly between them just because. Remember, you only have 100 skulls, and you do need to make them last, because we are unsure of when they will be returning to the shop. Hopefully they will come back sooner rather than later, but we are still unsure at this particular point. With 6-star Yamato, 6-star Yamato does have access to a character called Sugar. Now, with Yamato and her chain boosting shenanigans, you can actually get a lot of extra damage with the girl Sugar, as Sugar can turn everyone into bears and get the 0.7 buff to the chain, which works really, really nicely with Yamato, because the final tap with Sugar, if you guys don't know, the final tap still takes precedence with the auto-tapping mechanic. So when you tap with Sugar, you normally go Sugar, top right, bottom right, bottom right, and then top left, middle left, bottom left, depending on wherever Sugar sits, right? But with Final Tap Legends, Sugar actually prioritizes the Final Tap characters last, and because of that, you can actually still get that Final Tap as a bear with Yamato, so it works really, really nicely. When you do 6+ Yamato, you obviously lose Sugar. You don't lose Sugar, like you can still put her on the team, she just doesn't get a buff. But a lot of people have been asking, like, which Yamato does more damage, which Yamato is better, what Yamato should I be looking at? At the end of the day, depending on what content is floating around, is depending on what you should do with your Yamato. If the content needs the Free Spirit Sire character, then definitely Super Evolver. But just be mindful you do have the 100 skulls. And a lot of people have been trying to tell me that 6-star is better than 6+. In my eyes, I think they're equal. I think they're both on par with each other, and they're both very good units. I see them as very different units, obviously. One's Int, one's Sire, one's Free Spirit, one's Driven. But a lot of people are saying that 6-star, or I have seen, sorry, I shouldn't say a lot of people. I have seen people saying that 6-star is better because she can output more damage. The thing with 6-star Yamato, she can output more damage if you have access to Sugar and you are utilizing Sugar's shenanigans. If you aren't using Sugar's shenanigans, the 6+ Yamato stereotypically has more consistent damage output and works a little bit nicer consistently, as you are at a much higher multiplier without needing to be with Wano orbs or being below 50% HP, because all you need to do is hit perfect starting at 4.75 going up to that 5 times. Either way, both the characters are very, very good, and just chop and change between the two whenever you actually need to, as both of them are great, and both of them can clear pretty much the same amount of content, and they all work very nicely. I will give my opinion on who I like more in the final video, but that was Enel. Excuse me for rambling away, but like I said, that was the point of the video. So that was Enel. Let's move on to the worst generation now. Alright, so for the worst generation, this is the team. Those are the supports. Let's dive in. Now, between the two Yamatos, I do have a favorite. I actually prefer the 6-star Yamato on paper, mainly because she has Driven in her kit. Now, I wasn't a huge Driven like fanboy for a very long time. I'm more of a Free Spirit fan myself. But when it comes to viability and usability, I find the 6-star Yamato has a bit more oomph, as she works great as the mono-driven captain, where the Free Spirit Yamato, you can always bring the friend captain to sort of make that work. With the 6-star Yamato, I do find that she kind of finds her way on more teams, and Int needs the help a little bit more than Sai needs the help. I do find that Driven needs a little bit more help, like she provides more for Driven that other characters can't provide than what she can for Free Spirits, because they have Odin and stuff like that. But again, in saying that, I don't think that 6-star is better than the 6+. I do think they are the same in terms of power. I do believe they are the same in terms of viability. I do believe they are the same in usability. But for me, I just prefer to use the 6-star Yamato whenever I can, because she has damage reduction in her kit as well. And getting below 50% HP is really not that hard. It's very easy to do. It works really, really nicely when you do get below that 50%, because you get a lot of damage reduction. Hybriding up characters like Kid as well, you have access to characters like Kid and Versakainu, so you can easily get conditional boosts, you can easily get attack and orb boosts with their kit, dropping the HP below 50%, and then using something like Sugar to do all those chain boosting shenanigans as well. It's just a lot of fun running the Driven team at the moment, especially with the new Doffy that has released on Japan as well. You can just do some really, really cool things. In saying that though, I do have a little bit of a prediction on New Year's of what I think the New Year's Super Sugo Fest is going to look like. And I think Free Spirits is going to make another rise once we come around to that particular time. But until that point, again, don't quote me on that. It's just my prediction. At the end of the day, it's my opinion. But we'll have to wait and see once New Year's does roll around. But for the meantime, I do prefer to use Yamato 6-star, a little bit more than 6+ on Japan. But in saying that too, the combination of Roger and 6+ Yamato is just absolutely disgustingly powerful. It's ridiculously powerful. You can remove Despair and you can remove Bind. Another thing that I haven't spoke about with Yamato's captain ability, she can actually remove 10 turns of Bind just passively. Now this is infinitely better in my opinion than Despair removal. We're actually on the Erogue stage. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. Give me 1 second. Alright, I hate this Erogue stage, so I'm just going to fast forward to the point where we're at the 2 million. Because, like we don't need to sit through and just watch me just attacking, you know. With the bind removal in her captain, I do believe it's infinitely better than something like Despair. Mainly because if your captain gets binded, you can just immediately remove the 10 turns of bind. If you get double Despaired, and then you get binded, however, very similar to how Roger, if Roger gets binded and then Despaired, it doesn't get removed. But Bind can affect anyone on the crew, where Despair only affects the captains, and Despair is just a lot easier to remove, I find, as if the character that you bring to remove Bind gets binded, then you are pretty much stuck up Ship Creek without a paddle, and it's very hard to, it can basically spell the end of your run unless you reload the game. So, for example, if we were taking on the Kid Forest and we're at the Big Mom stage, and your character that is designed to remove Bind is on the team and gets binded, you basically have to reload the app, go back into the app to make sure that that character doesn't get binded, so you can have access to their special to remove that. If your captain gets despaired, doesn't matter what happens at that point, because you can still remove that with your character's special. Very similar to Special Bind as well. I do think Special Bind and Special Reverse are very, very viable in a captain ability as well. But Bind is an absolute game changer. I do think it's the best out of all of them. And it's going to see a lot of viability moving forward. Whenever whenever content just has a lot of bind in it, you're just always going to run Yamato as either a friend or a double Yamato team. So that way you just don't even have to think about it. For example, when on Japan, we actually had the re-release of the Halloween events with like the Halloween Luffy and the Croc and the Robin and stuff. And that 0 stamina event revolved a lot around special reverse as well as special bind and bind removal. Now that we've got this in quotation marks power creep over here on the Japanese version as well as the global version, that content was an absolute breeze. That 0 stamina event was no issues whatsoever if you brought a friend Yamato or your own Yamato, because you could just remove that bind and you just saved so much room on your team for subs. You could basically remove 2 subs that were designed to remove bind on that particular piece of content because you could just remove it with your Yamato. Now that does fall the same for like special bind, special reverse, and despair and all that sort of stuff as well. But as I mentioned, if you don't know what's happening in the content, and with the sync, once global and Japan is on the same page, it's going to be very hard for global players to know what's coming. And when it comes to team building, and you are going to have to do a little bit more testing and trialing. With Yamato as a captain, it doesn't matter like if you get blinded, that character that is designed to remove bind gets blinded, because you're going to remove it with your captain anyway. You free yourself a whole massive slot, and you are just hunky-dory good to go. So we're wrapping up the video now. We are over here on the worst generation, on the final stage, and as you guys seen here, like the shenanigans you can do with Yamato and just sort of hanging onto Wano orbs for pretty much the entire fight. It's like pretty much all of these Garp challenges, I've just found ways to lock my orbs and just keep Wano orbs for as long as possible. And that way I can just sort of decimate these stages with the stuff like the Magello ship, with stuff like the super typings of Yamato, with the stuff like the support of Custard. And it all just works very, very nicely when it comes to these 10-star and 11-star Garp challenges. But that's going to wrap up the video anyway, guys. I hope you enjoyed the discussion on Yamato. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions on the character are in the comment section below. I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to know how you guys went on this Sugo Fest, and I'd love to know what you think of the new Super Sugo Fest Yamato. But if you haven't done so already, guys, make sure to smash that like button for me if you're new to the channel. Hit the big red subscribe button too. But guys, wherever you are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Laters!